Here is a fact that the bottled water industry would prefer you not think about too carefully. Aquafina, one of the best-selling bottled water brands in America, owned by PepsiCo, is tap water. Not tap water that has been lightly filtered. Tap water that goes through a purification process called reverse osmosis. But the source is municipal water, the same water that comes out of your faucet. In 2007, PepsiCo, under pressure from activists and regulators, agreed to change the label on Aquafina bottles to clarify the source. The label now says PWS, Public Water Source. It is in very small print. Dasani, Coca-Cola's bottled water brand, is also sourced from municipal water supplies. Nestlé Pure Life, many store brand bottled waters, tap water, filtered, put in plastic bottles, and sold to you for $1 to $2. The markup on bottled water compared to tap water is approximately 300 to 2,000 times depending on the source and the brand. You are paying between 300 and 2,000 times more for water from a bottle than for water from your tap. And the bottled water industry generates approximately $20 billion per year in the United States alone. This is the story of how that happened. How the beverage industry convinced Americans to pay for something they already had. What it costs in plastic waste and environmental damage. And why the product you think you're buying is frequently not what the marketing suggests. The bottled water industry in America traces its modern form to the late 1970s and early 1980s when Perrier, the French sparkling water brand, began aggressively marketing in the United States. Perrier positioned mineral water as a sophisticated alternative to soda for health-conscious consumers. It worked extraordinarily well. But Perrier had something that most bottled water brands don't have. It had a genuine source, a specific spring in southern France with specific mineral content. It was actually different from tap water. The brands that followed, the Aquafinas and Dasanis of the world, borrowed Perrier's positioning without Perrier's product. They took the aesthetic of natural purity and applied it to municipal water. The marketing was sophisticated and effective. Mountains on the labels, words like pure, natural, and crisp. Images of glaciers, springs, and pristine wilderness. The product in many cases was water from a treatment plant in New Jersey or Ohio or California, put through additional filtration and packaged in plastic. Let me be precise about what the different categories of bottled water actually are, because the industry has created enough terminology to obscure the simple reality. Spring water, by FDA definition, must come from an underground source that flows naturally to the surface. It must be collected at the spring or through a borehole tapping the spring. This is the category that most closely matches the natural imagery on the labels. Purified water, by FDA definition, is water that has been treated to meet certain purity standards. The source can be anything, including municipal tap water. This is what Aquafina and Dasani are. Mineral water must come from a protected underground source and contain a minimum level of dissolved minerals. True mineral water, Evian, San Pellegrino, Perrier, actually is different from tap water in meaningful ways. But here is what the labels don't tell you clearly. Approximately 64% of bottled water sold in the United States is purified water, tap water that has been filtered. The remaining 36% is split between spring water and mineral water, with spring water making up the majority of that. So roughly 2/3 of the bottled water Americans buy is tap water in a bottle. And here is the part that should genuinely make you angry. Municipal tap water in most American cities is heavily regulated. The EPA requires regular testing and public reporting of water quality results. Your municipality must publish an annual water quality report called a Consumer Confidence Report, showing what is and isn't in your water. Bottled water is regulated by the FDA, not the EPA. FDA bottled water standards are in many cases less stringent than EPA tap water standards. Bottled water companies are not required to publish the same kind of detailed water quality reporting that municipalities are. In multiple independent tests, including tests by the Environmental Working Group and by investigative journalists, bottled water has been found to contain contaminants that would require public disclosure if found in tap water. You are in many cases paying a premium for a product with less oversight than what comes out of your faucet for free. Nestlé's water business, which includes brands like Poland Spring, Deer Park, Ozarka, Ice Mountain, Arrowhead, and others, has been the subject of significant controversy over its sourcing practices. In multiple markets, Nestlé has been accused of drawing water from sources during drought conditions, paying minimal fees for access to public water resources, and selling that water at enormous markups. In Flint, Michigan, where the municipal water crisis was making national headlines, Nestlé was paying $200 per year for a permit to draw up to 400 gallons per minute from a Michigan aquifer. $200 per year for the right to draw water that they bottled and sold for millions. The permit was renewed and expanded despite public opposition. The environmental cost of the bottled water industry is significant and worth understanding separately from the consumer fraud angle. Americans buy approximately 50 billion plastic water bottles per year. Approximately 80% of those bottles end up in landfills or as litter rather than being recycled. Plastic water bottles take approximately 450 years to decompose. The production of those bottles requires oil. Plastic is petroleum-based. Transportation of bottled water generates significant carbon emissions. The entire supply chain of bottled water has an environmental footprint that tap water, delivered through existing infrastructure, does not. Here is a comparison that puts the scale in perspective. Tap water costs approximately half a cent per gallon in most American cities. A gallon of bottled water, depending on the brand, costs between $1 and $8. The markup is between 200 and 1,600 times the cost of tap water. For that markup, you are often receiving water from the same municipal source, filtered to a similar standard, delivered in plastic that will outlast everyone reading this transcript by several centuries. Now, I want to be fair about when bottled water makes genuine sense. In areas where tap water quality is genuinely compromised, Flint, Michigan being the most prominent recent example, bottled water is a necessity, not a luxury. In areas where the tap water tastes poor due to treatment chemicals or pipe issues, filtered bottled water is a reasonable choice. For emergency preparedness, for travel in countries where tap water is unsafe. In these contexts, bottled water serves a real purpose. But for the average American in a city with safe tap water, buying multiple plastic bottles of purified municipal water per day, that is an industry that has successfully convinced you to pay for something you already own. The Brita filter that costs $20 and lasts 2 months and filters your tap water to the same standard as most bottled water. That is the $20 solution to the $500 annual bottled water habit. The bottled water industry spends enormous amounts on marketing specifically to prevent you from arriving at that conclusion. The mountains on the label are there for a reason. They are not pictures of where the water came from. They are pictures of what they want you to think of when you're thirsty. Next week on Coffin Ledger, Jimmy John's, the sandwich franchise that shipped stores and trailers, left owners to figure it out alone, and built a franchise empire on fees rather than franchisee success. Subscribe, share this. Every industry has a coffin. We track what killed them. This is Coffin Ledger.